Hello, everyone. Welcome. I do apologize for being late this morning, but I figured I would throw together this course introduction video for those of you that like an explanation about the syllabus and things like that. I don't know. Apparently, extreme cold makes trains not run so well. Who would have thought? Anyways, so for those of you that have never met me before, my name is Dr. Patrick Kearns. I'm the program director of biology at Fisher College. So not only am I your instructor for the semester, I'll be your instructor for many courses going forward, whether it's genetics, chemistry, cell biology. But I'm also always here for you as an individual in the biology program, or whether you're maybe just in the health science program as well, helping you out as best as I can. So if you ever have any questions about anything, never hesitate to reach out to me. I'm always happy to sit down and talk with a student, whether it's remotely or whether it's face to face in my office. So now we're in general biology too. Now, for those of you that took general biology one for me last semester, you have a general idea what to expect for in terms of quizzes, in terms of exams and slides and all that stuff. But in terms of material, we're basically taking a complete 180 here. We're going from pretty heavily focused on molecular biology, proteins, enzymes, DNA, RNA, transcription, all that fun stuff, to really thinking about nature. And so this course is really focused on nature. And on one hand, I really like that because I love going outside. I love playing in the woods. I'm a nature boy. Um, however, at the same time, I also really like the molecular stuff. Most of my research has been on molecular stuff. I like to my research as a scientist always was in the environment, but I would always apply these molecular ideas to the environment. So kind of split feelings for me. Part of me is like I missed the molecular stuff for this class, but the other part of me is like, wow, I'm excited to talk about the environment here. So, anyways, I digress. Um, so in terms of this course, we meet together for lecture, so 8 to 9:15 in room 10833, and we have a recitation from 9:30 to 10:15. We technically have a break here that if we want to take advantage of, we will. But I think most of the time we'll probably just kind of keep talking um, and keep going. That should be 9:20. Now we also have a lab section. Now you should check My Fisher to know which one you're in. Now you would be in lab section 1 if you're at 11 a.m. or lab section 2 if you're at 2 p.m. So you guys get to hang out with me all day Friday, and I'm sure you're all very excited about that. Is what it is. The lab is in building 108, room 43. So if you took, if you've taken a lab before at Fisher, it's in the same exact room. And it's always there's only one lab. Wish we had more, but as of now, we only have one lab. So in terms of required materials, I don't require you to buy anything for this course. I think the price of admission is pretty dang high for for any college, let alone and Fisher is no exception to that rule. So I don't require any materials for you to purchase. So there is a free and fantastic open source biology textbook called Biology 2E. It's available free of charge on OpenStax, which is a great resource provided by I think, Rice University in Washington. I recommend if you ever need a textbook for anything, you check OpenStax. They have a lot of great stuff. In addition, I also am providing you completely the lab manual. So anything you need for the lab is provided for you free in the lab manual. It is available on Blackboard. So that's fun stuff. And as a supplemental thing, if you want to buy this writing guide by Jen Pennick, short guide to writing about biology, you can find it for about $6 on Amazon. It is a good resource. So I mean, if you don't want to buy it, then don't. But again, I recommend it going forward for you as an individual. So now, in terms of how you're going to be assessed, I'm sure this is what interests you the most. The first is going to be participation. So every class will have a sign-up sheet. You sign your name in, look, engage, answer questions when when I prompt people, ask questions yourself, and you'll do fine. That's sort of the gist of that 10%. Show up, and you'll be okay. Normally, I'm a little more stingy on these participation points. I actually require people to participate. However, COVID has made engagement at an all-time low as far as I observe. So I'm not as you know strict on this. So basically just show up and you'll get that 10%. Now, the largest portion of your grade, which is 25% of your grade, is this video documentary. And this is something that you're going to hate, I think, initially. I think most people initially hate the idea of it, but it's something that I think you guys will all enjoy. And we'll get into it in a sec, but I just want to talk about the other things really briefly first. So the exams are the exams. So these are going to be in class. For those of you who took General Biology 1 with me last semester, these are going to be the same 40 multiple choice questions on the material for that given time period. The only difference is that, well, actually, there's no difference. I was going to say I don't drop one, but I dropped one for this class. So you have 3 exams. They're in class, in person. I'll drop the lowest one. So basically, you'll get for the exam, you'll get basically the time of the lecture. So you'll get from 8 to 9:15 to do it, and then we'll cover some material in the recitation for the remainder 45 minutes. So you only get that an hour and 15 minutes for the exam. That is all. But again, I will drop the lowest one. But as you'll notice that the exams are only 20%, 10% each. So, and then finally, well, not finally, but next up we have assignments. So these are just homework assignments. They're available on Blackboard. They're multiple choice. They're typically 20 questions in that ballpark. Depends on the assignment. I think the first one is only 10 questions just to make things easy. And then I think they bump up to 20. But they're just homework assignments. They're designed to test your knowledge of what we cover in lectures. That's pretty much it. And then we have your lab, and we'll dive into the lab in a bit, but that is also worth 25% of your grade. As a note, I do offer extra credit opportunities. So if you want to earn extra credit, basically I require you to read scientific literature and summarize scientific literature for me. I do this for 2 reasons. One, because I like to read things about published scientific literature. I think that's fun. As a scientist, I enjoy reading that. But it also makes you more scientifically literate, making you better understand, better comprehend scientific literature. So there's that. So the way these work is you pick a primary research article. So for instance, I link this one here. Now this is an article that I published about 5 years ago. But this is a research article. You want to make sure you're writing about a research article, not a review article or a web page or a news article. It has to be a scientific research article published in a scientific journal, a good scientific journal, not just like some crappy thing. It's got to be a scientific journal. And basically what you're doing, you're writing a 2-page synopsis of it. And so the synopsis, it tells you exactly what it needs: the paper, the authors, the description of the goals, how they did the research, what they found out, and how it relates to the lecture material. So nothing crazy, but again, a way of you to get some extra credit points. So you can write 2 of these for the entire semester. Each one is worth 12 extra credit points apiece. So grand total, if you do both of them and you do well on both of them, you can get a grand total of 24 points, which is 6% towards your final grade. Now, I see extra credit as two things. I see it as something that's not necessary for the course. So you don't need to do this extra credit if you do all the other work. And I see extra credit as a way to bump you up. So pretend you did bad on your exam. I see these extra credits as a way to bump you up from, say, a B+ to an A. Right? It can only bring you 6%, but that's the way I see it. It's not to save your grade from a D to an A, or even a D to a B. Right? It's designed to bring you from a B+ to an A- or an A. So that's how I see these. Now, the biggest proportion of your grade is actually going to be this video documentary. And again, this is something you might love and it's something you might hate, but it's an important piece. And the reason I have you guys do this is because of just basically one. Well, there's 2 reasons. First being, you should be comfortable presenting. That's part of being a scientist. That's part about being in the field of medicine. It's part about being in school. You should be comfortable presenting. And the best way to become comfortable with presenting and to get better at presenting is to simply present. When I first started off teaching almost 10 years ago, I wasn't very good at presenting. I'm still not the best, but I'm significantly better than when I started. And I'm significantly better than when I started because I practiced over and over and over again. And that's going to be the same thing for you. You're going to be a better presenter if you practice over and over again. Now, the second reason I'd like to have people do this assignment is because it allows you to disseminate scientific knowledge to a non-scientific audience, as well as a scientific audience. And that's an important thing. As we've seen with COVID, as we've seen with climate change, as we've seen with the anti-vaccination movement, the poor communication of science leads to bad things. So bad messaging by scientists early on in climate change and the vaccination and in COVID has led to very bad things. And the very bad things obviously are people die. So your capacity to be an effective scientist, to be an effective doctor, to be an effective nurse, whatever your career trajectory is that is tied to your biology degree, is dependent on you conveying a solid message of science to people. So with those two things in mind, your topic for the day is going to be, not for the day, but for the semester is, because this course focuses so heavily on ecology and evolution and the biology of organisms, the largest portion of your grade will be focusing on getting you out of the classroom, away from your textbook, away from my slides, and into the environment. And what is that environment? Well, that environment for Fisher College is the greater Boston area. So your task for this semester, and there'll be multiple checkpoints along the way, and we'll discuss this throughout the semester, but your task for the semester is to write a video documentary and then record a video documentary. To answer the question, how does the urban environment influence the ecology, evolution, or biology of X? And X in this case is really whatever you want as a person or a scientist. So what would be an example of this? Well, how does the urban environment affect the ecology and biology of pigeons? How does the urban environment influence the ecology of human biology? How does urban environment affect the evolution of mice? That's your general flow. How does the urban environment affect X? Now, I think of this as a biology standpoint, but I recognize that many of you are interested in things like behavior and psychology and potentially other social issues. So I'm a-okay if you want to make a documentary about one of those things. If you want to make a documentary focusing on how the urban environment affects the behavior of humans or the behavior of squirrels or the behavior of birds or the psychology of humans, I'm okay with that. What I want you get you thinking about researching some science and making a documentary about that topic. And that documentary is really the sky's the limit with this. You have the capacity to kind of do what you want here. I'm willing to let you do any number of things, but there are some restrictions to this limit here. Now, it's a solo project. So this is something you're doing all by yourself. And what you're doing is you're not standing in front of a PowerPoint like I would be doing in lecture or sitting in front of a computer, right? You're not doing that. You are doing what I would do when we were, say, in laboratory together. You're going to get up, you're going to be out and about in the city of Boston talking about your topic. So you're going to be stepping into the role of a Jeff Corwin, of a Bill Nye, or a David Attenborough. And you're talking about these topics in a natural setting. And that natural setting for us is going to be the city. So if you're going to be talking about pigeons, you should try to get some footage of pigeons inside the city. That's not hard. There's pigeons everywhere. If you want to talk about the biology of people, you should be talking about the biology of people in the context of Boston. And that's what's different about this. It's not a presentation in the general sense. It's taking you out of your comfort zone, putting you in a less natural environment for you, out of the classroom. That's what I mean by non-natural here, out of the classroom, and get you thinking about how can I convey this message to the way a David Attenborough would do, the way a Bill Nye would do. So that's your goal for this project. Now, there's some caveats to this, as I mentioned. The first being you have to research these items beforehand. So your research has to consist of 5 or more scientific or potentially popular science articles. So something like from National Geographic is okay about your topics. And the research themselves must be discussed in the video. Now, you don't have to talk about every piece of research that you do, but you definitely need to hit upon what we know. It can't just be random stuff. You will submit a bibliography to Blackboard. So I will see what you are looking at some point. Now, you must show aspects of your items in these videos. So the more engaged and enthusiastic you are, the better. So you're discussing a wide variety of content as well, just as a note. But you should be trying to discuss what you're talking about in the video. So you should be trying to show what you're trying to talk about as best you can, of course. And the videos themselves should be 10 to 12 minutes long. Now, that might not seem like a lot. I'm sorry, that might seem like a lot, but trust me, once you get talking about a topic that you've researched for, say like 5 or 6 hours, it's really, really easy to talk for a very, very long time. So 10 to 12 minutes might seem like a lot inherently. However, it's going to go by much faster then. So you want to make sure these are scripted. You want to make sure that you know what you're going to say. You're not just going off the cuff, just as a note. Now, in terms of how you shoot this video, you all have cell phones, so you can shoot this. You can be a person that has someone to record you. You can use a selfie stick. You can just use your own phone and talk like you're giving yourself a selfie. There's any number of ways you could shoot this. That really is up to you. Now, in terms of other things, your film attire should be appropriate, right? You shouldn't be, wearing a tank top or something like that. You should look like a presentable human being. You should obviously use appropriate language. So you shouldn't be using slang. You should be speaking like this is an academic exercise, right? Obviously, no swearing. Now, the other thing to be aware of here is that you want to make sure you're adhering to COVID-19 guidelines from the CDC in the state of Massachusetts. So try not to, break any things, wear masks, things like that. So now, if you have safety concerns, that's the only really way you can get around doing this. If you have safety concerns, let me know and we can make alternative arrangements for you. But other than that, this is your project. And again, it's not a large amount of work to do. It might sound kind of crappy, but it'll be a valuable experience for you. Making videos is a very valuable experience. Trust me. So the videos are graded by the content in the video, and the content itself is 50 points. And the 10 points will be the literature cited and the topic proposal that you'll upload to Blackboard. So that's 60 points right off the bat. And then finally is your video reflections. So I will take your videos that you submit and I will upload so there's already a folder available on Blackboard for you to upload your videos to. If you wanted out and recorded it tomorrow, you could. I will upload your nature documentaries to a class YouTube channel. The videos will be unlisted, so the only people that will be able to view these videos are your classmates. And so what you should do for these video reflections, which again are going to be a portion of your grade, is watch 8 of those videos, any 8 you want, doesn't matter. And you're going to write down on a discussion board 2 things you learned from the video. You want to make sure you use the person's name in your summary so that that I know you watched the video. 1 thing you wish you learned from the video, and in 1 paragraph, summarize your overall experience recording your own video. Was it challenging? Did you feel you learned a lot about your topics? And what would you do differently if you had to do it again? This has no page limit, so write as much as you need to answer those questions. So you should be answering 1 and 2 for all 8 videos, and just 1, this number 3, on your own video. So that's the video documentary. We'll discuss it more and more as it comes up through the semester, and we'll discuss it again as we look through the course schedule below. Next up is lab. Now, the labs are broken down into a number of different things, as you can see. Now, these labs, if you took Biology 1 with me last semester, they are quite a bit different, right? We're actually going to be in the lab with one another doing experiments. And as such, I devised some pretty cool stuff. I'm pretty excited for the things that we're going to be doing together, just as a note. Now, every lab will have a pre-lab quiz. Now, these pre-lab quizzes will be conducted within the first 5 minutes of lab. If you are more than 5 minutes late for lab, you cannot take this lab quiz. No ifs, ands, or buts. I don't care why you're late. You cannot take it. So if you're more than 5 minutes late to lab, you can't take your lab quiz. Every lab has a quiz. Now, I will drop your lowest quizzes. I think I said that I will drop there's a total of 11, and I will drop your lowest one. So each lab quiz is only worth 2 points, but 20 points is 5% of your overall course grade. So you want to make sure you come to class ready for these lab quizzes. Now, what constitutes these lab quizzes? What's fair game on these lab quizzes? Well, the reality is anything that's in the lab manual for that given week is fair game. So if the lab is on lichen for that week, the entire lab on lichen is fair game, whether it's the background, the methods, or the interpretation of the data. That's all fair game. So that's the pre-lab quizzes. They're designed to make sure you come prepared. I find a lot of students don't come prepared, and it elongates the time they spend in lab. Come prepared, you'll do well in the quizzes. And again, the only way you have to prepare is just by reading the lab manual, and that's it. Next up, we have a couple lab reports. So we have 2 big lab reports. The first is the fish and cricket anatomy and microplastics lab report. And this one's a pretty cool one. So later in the semester, we're going to dissect crickets and we're going to dissect perch. And then a subsequent lab for that, we're going to analyze those individuals for microplastics. So plastics that are microscopic that you can't really see with the naked eye. So it's a multi-week experiment. I think it's going to be awesome. I think you guys are going to really like it. But again, there's going to be a lab report written on it. The other lab report, which is going to be, it's worth the same amount of points, but it's a 5 or 6 week experiment. And this is ties directly to the science that I really am interested in. And this is the soil microbial ecology and plant lab report. So this lab, I think it's pretty cool. I'm going to provide you a soil from my backyard, from different environmental conditions. You're going to isolate microorganisms and see how those microorganisms influence the growth of plants. In addition, you're going to see how the underlying chemistry of that soil influences the growth of plants and the biology of plants. So again, it's a multi-week experiment that I think you guys are really going to enjoy, that I really enjoyed writing and coming up with as a note. But I think it's going to be really fun for you guys. In addition, there's a couple of what I'm calling just kind of data sheets. So we're doing a lab where we look at the lichen of the Boston Common or the Boston Garden. There's a data sheet that you need to turn in for that. That's going to be a group effort. There's the tree phylogeny. That's going to be our second lab together, where you're basically using bioinformatics, so computers, to construct phylogenetic histories of trees of the Boston Common and Garden. That's just going to be a tree you turn in. And then second to last, we have a cemetery demography lab. So it's going to be another computer-based lab. You're going to analyze historical records of cemeteries and construct some demography information about human populations and answer some hypotheses and things like that. And then finally, it's the squirrel behavior lab, where, for lack of a better word, you're going to look like a crazy person and you're going to try to essentially chase squirrels in the Boston Common to understand their behavior relative to the behavior of natural squirrels. So lots and lots of things to do in lab, and I hope you guys all enjoy the things I've put forth for this lab. Now, in terms of lab attendance is mandatory. If you miss a lab, say you overslept, well, the labs are in the afternoon, but pretend for some reason you missed the lab because you had something. There's no capacity for you to switch labs. You're going to be working with a consistent group throughout the semester, so I don't want to disrupt those group dynamics. But more importantly, COVID doesn't allow me to let you switch sections. So if you miss your lab section, you're out of luck. Now, if you miss a lab section, whether it's excused or unexcused, you forfeit all the points associated with that lab. So it means if there's a data sheet associated with that lab, you can't turn it in. If there's a quiz associated with that lab, you can't turn it in. So make sure you come to all labs. Now, in terms of the group work that we're going to be doing, so these multi-week projects, if you miss a week, your group member can help you get the data for it. That's okay. But again, you do forfeit all the quizzes and the worksheets associated with it, just as a note. In addition, my final policy that we should discuss together is late work. Now, historically, I usually adopt a no late work policy. That's kind of what I like to do. I'm going to relax things a little bit this semester. So I will allow late work up to 1 week late. So what does that mean? If you turn in an assignment 1 week, so say it's due on Saturday, you turn it in on Sunday morning at 3 a.m. That's 3 hours late. It's considered late. So you lose 50% of your points, not the points that you were going to get, but total. So if say the homework's worth 10 points, the maximum you can get if it's more than a minute late on the day it's due, you lose 5 points. So you start as the maximum you can get as 5 points. After 1 week of being late, so if it's 7 days and 1 second late, you get a 0. So if you're going to turn something in late, you're better off taking the extra time and turning it in 6 days after the fact. So that's my policy for the course. Late work accepted 1 week late. After 1 week, it is no go. Now that applies to unexcused late work. Now, if you have excused late work, like you have COVID, doctor's stuff, family issues, there's obviously exceptions to be made, but you need to reach out to me. If you get to the end of the semester and you're missing 3 things because you were sick, you're out of luck. I'm not gonna track you down to turn these things in. You need to be communicative with me for you to get credit, even if it's an excused absence. So make sure you reach out to me. If you're gonna miss something because you're really sick, let me know. I don't need to know why you're really sick, but I need to know that you're missing something. So think of this kind of like a job, right? If you have a job and you decided not to show up for 2 days, what's going to happen to you with that job? You're going to get fired, right? It's the same thing here. You need to communicate to me that there's a problem, and I'm not going to chase you down. This isn't like high school. You need to let me know there's a problem so I can fix the problem. And that by fixing the problem, I don't mean help you with your problem. I mean making it so that you can turn in late work. That's all. So that's the gist of that. If you have any questions about the late work policy, let me know. Now, this is the course schedule. It's broken down into 3 main units. So the first is evolution. These are going to be the first 4 weeks of the class. Then we'll have an exam on the 5th week where we cover those first 4 weeks. The next is highlighted in yellow, and that's going to be weeks 5 through 10, which is going to be the diversity of life, where we explore bacteria, archaea, viruses, protists, fungi, plants, animals, and invertebrates. So diversity of life on the planet. I think it's a pretty fun section. And then finally, weeks 11 through 15, we're going to be exploring ecology, behavior, community ecology, ecosystem ecology, conservation biology, climate change, and microplastics. So all sorts of things about the ecology of the planet around us. So 3 units, 3 exams. Each exam will only cover the material in that unit. So just as a note, I don't expect you to take exam 2 and remember everything that you learned for exam 1. Now, as you look through this, you'll notice there's a number of different things. So each week has a lab. So this week was just reading the introductory and safety thing. Next week, we're going to be doing Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium, and there's a lab quiz. So LQ is lab quiz. And you'll see as we go, right? So for instance, lab 3 is going to be molecular phylogeny of the plants of the Boston Garden. Week 4, we're going to start our plant and soil experiment, which is going to be a fun one. And that's going to go on for a few weeks. But just always make sure you check which lab we're doing that week and make sure you realize that there's a lab quiz going on. There is a day here, week 12, where there's a pad day. And this is a day that I decided not to schedule anything for the labs, just in case we needed extra time for the dissections of the fish, for dissections of the crickets, or for the analysis of the microplastics. So this is a day that, as we get closer to, we may or may not have lab on this day, just as a note. There's also no lab quiz associated with it, so just as a note. So there's that. Now, in addition, you'll also notice that there are homework assignments too. So we have the weekly assignment ones, which is designated as WAs. They're just homeworks, just another way of saying homework. They're spread out through the semester. It tells you when they're due. So your first weekly assignment is due on Blackboard next, the following week. So around 2/5. They're always going to be due on Fridays, if I'm not mistaken. But you also notice that there's other things due. So the topic for your video documentary due is due week 5. You have the exam. Your 5 sources for your documentary are due in week 8. Your video documentary itself, it's due in week 11. And then finally, your reflections of the video documentaries are due in week 14. Now, the final thing I want to make notice, if you're planning on turning any extra credit, all extra credit is due by May 7th at midnight. If you are 1 second late on your extra credit, don't bother turning it in. It's not going to be graded at all. So it has to be turned in on time if you want to do extra credit. Now, they're all due by May 7th. If you wanted to do them tomorrow, you could. You could. But again, I won't accept any extra credit after May 7th. As a final note before we we break off for this, if you have a documented disability through the Office of Student Accessibility Services, OSAS, which I think is kind of a fun thing to say, please let me know so I can make accommodations for you as necessary. So if you need extra time on exams, assignments, just let me know. There's usually paperwork associated with it. Just make sure it comes to me within the first 2 weeks of class so I know. That being said, if you do not have a disability, if you have a disability or even something that's not a disability like anxiety, depression, severe family issues that's not documented with OSAS, let me know. Reach out to me so that I know, so that I can make accommodations for you. I'm happy if you are someone that suffers from, say, some mental issue. I'm happy to make accommodations for you as necessary, but you need to reach out to me sooner rather than later. Again, if you reach out to me at the end of the semester and say, oh, I was suffering from depression the whole semester, there's really nothing I can do at that point. So if you have any problems, your best option is to reach out to me. I don't need to know the specifics about it, but you need to reach out to me so I can help you. I can help you by easing your load here in this class with me. And also for other classes you take at Fisher, I can also speak to the other professors as well, if that is the case. So the best option for you is just to communicate with me. If there's a problem, let me know. Happy to help you. And then the final thing that we'll just make mention of is this academic integrity statement. Everything you submit in this class, everything, So multiple choice are exempt from this, but everything you submit in this class should be in your own words. What does that mean? You should not be quoting. Scientists do not quote. So there's absolutely no quoting tolerated in this class. And I say that because, again, scientists don't quote. And that's true for doctors, that's true for vets, dental people. It doesn't matter. Scientists, people that work in the field of science, don't quote. So do not, under any circumstance, quote ever. That's part one. Part two, everything should be in your own words. What does that mean? When you read a sentence, don't simply rearrange the sentence. Don't take out words from the sentence. Write the sentence as your own words. Mosaic plagiarizing, i.e. rearranging a sentence, taking words out of a sentence, still plagiarism. So even if you took out 5 words from a sentence and you're still using the bulk of a sentence, or even half of a sentence, or even a third of a sentence, that's still plagiarism. So don't do that. The other thing is, don't directly copy. Your lab reports will be checked and your data sheets will be checked for plagiarism. Don't copy from your classmates. Don't copy from the internet. It's really easy to catch. So the other thing I'll make mention of is that we have in-class quizzes in the lab and exams. If I catch you cheating on those, like looking at someone else's paper, you'll just get an automatic 0. So the penalty for any cheating is an automatic 0 on the assignment, and I have to write a letter to the the vice president of the college. So that's all. So this is the grading scale. It's the same as every other class you've ever taken. So with that, that is going to be the end of this little course introduction video. If you guys have any questions, this is my email. This is my office. It's room 44. It's right outside the laboratory space. And this is my office phone number. Please do not hesitate to reach out to me for anything, or even if you just want to talk about your career or biology in general. Otherwise, I hope you guys have a good day and take care.